Today I'm working on my first 2D tile set, designed for use in platformer and side-scroller games. I'm using Aesprite, and I'm working on developing a Grasslands tile set for an asset pack that has multiple biomes in it. I'm pretty new at this, and I have a lot to learn, so I hope you enjoy coming on this journey with me. First, I started by blocking out some space for what shapes I imagined could be useful: ledges, flat spaces, and walls. Once this was done, I started with some simple shading. I had already picked my color palette earlier, so this step went pretty quickly. I ended up keeping darker colors towards the bottom with the brighter colors in thinner layers towards the top. It was in this step that I realized I would need another darker color for the inside or the core of the tiles. I then started working on blending the colors together. I wanted to keep most of the top layer, the brighter green color, to allow for that clear contact surface for any game character to walk on. I ended up doing this for the side walls as well later on. With the blending, I attempted to blend the colors downwards, trying to make the impression of grass and greenery overlapping and being pulled down from gravity. I did some minor resizing to keep within the 16 by 16-bit tile, then copied my original pattern to the similar tiles. Turns out, adding the light green sides made joining the two tiles easy, since I just had to connect the identical colors together. Then I just played with the texturing of it until I found something I liked. Felt some minor tweaks were needed for the overhang, but then it was on to the next pieces. I realized for this next overhanging piece, I didn't want the same amount of light green border colors, as it was hidden further away from the sun. I would instead want it to keep with the darker colors. I also wanted to round the edge a little bit on the bottom corners. I didn't need the lowest tiles, but quickly realized that was crazy, and this sort of stepping pattern is common in platformers, so I added it back. I went back to texturing for a bit. On the top tiles, I was again trying to have a majority of blending happen downwards, with gravity, but here on the bottom, I wanted to convey an idea of green growth crawling up the side of the tiles, so I tried to blend the darker green up into the brown more. Floating tile. I copied and flipped a tile I had already made, then set about texturing it. I had a bit of trouble getting this right as I couldn't figure out where the shading should be, and once I remembered I had a dark brown for the core, I ended up with something I like. repeated this process for the 2-tile floating piece, which, now that I'm recording this, I realize needed a middle piece or a 3rd tile to allow it to be modular. I guess I'll add that in the next update. Now with that done, I mirrored the grassland tiles and began figuring out what other tiles were needed. I realized I had a need for a wall tile, and so began to edit my existing tile set. I ended up tossing this in favor of building a different section specifically for walls, but this was still a useful exercise to do as it helped me visualize what was needed. Assembling the new section was pretty straightforward. I just needed to partially tweak some of the tiles I had already made by blending them together, and then edge the corners. You'll see me come back to this and tweak it a little bit over the next few videos, but for now, this is the start of my Grasslands tile set. Hope you enjoyed watching this process, thanks for watching, and I hope we'll meet again soon.